This is a second-generation farm. Janet's parents started this farm in 1976, growing sweet corn and asparagus and zucchini and tomatoes. And we moved over here in 2003 and started to transition from sweet corn and asparagus into coffee, mixed vegetables, and tropical fruit. And at the time, the farm was pretty conventional, a lot of chemicals, and we changed all that. And we've moved entirely away from any of the chemicals. It's all organic, and we try to do as much as we can with local resources for both fertility, replenishing organic matter in the soil, to try to lessen our reliance on stuff that comes in from out of state and comes in by barge. So we now grow something like 40 different kinds of vegetables. There's coffee, a couple different kinds of tropical fruit. We're always trying to come up with different innovations to give us not only a competitive advantage in the market by having something different, but also trying to make the best use of the land that we have, because, as you know, land in Maui is pretty expensive. So even if we wanted to expand, the cost of purchasing new land is prohibitive. So we've been changing our agricultural practices to get more food and more crops per square foot than we had in the past. And this is a reflection of things that are going on in large parts of the world, particularly the mainland, where people are using small walk-behind tractors and intensive agricultural techniques to increase the yield per acre and feed a larger segment of the community. You know, I've given talks to the high school on sustainable agriculture in Hawaii, and I talk about world issues, global issues, because it's not just specific to Maui, but you know, I couch it in local terms. And I remember one of the kids in the back of the class, there's like 200 kids in each class in the auditorium, and one of the kids in the back of the class, he goes, "So, uncle, how much money you make as a farmer?" And I said, "Hey, you know about Kimo's rules?" And he's like, "What's that?" I said, "There's two ways to get rich. Make more or desire less." And so, if you want to be your own boss, if you want to work outdoors, if maybe you're lucky you get to work outdoors with someone that you love, then farming is for you. That's a possibility. If you want to have like a flat screen TV in every room in your big house and drive Maserati, etc., farming's not for you. So kids are thinking about it. You know, if they like living on Maui, if they like being close to their families, I think it's a really positive way to stay here. The disadvantage is if you don't have access to inexpensive land, then there is no such thing as inexpensive land here. Although you can lease land at the ag park, and potentially we're expanding the ag parks here. So if you can lease land at $200 an acre a year, that's pretty affordable, right? And then if you can actually do it as a hui where you're sharing equipment, there's ways to make it work. The level of satisfaction you get with working within the community and feeding the community, you know, it's incomparable. The same students at Baldwin, I would say, you know, when you're at a farmer's market and you've got bundles of produce that you've grown, and parents come up and they say, you know, my kids never used to eat kale until they tried your kale. Or you guys, you know, chefs say, these are the best bananas on the entire island, and we've been around. You know, that's the type of gratification and satisfaction you get that you're not going to get working a 9 to 5 at a big box store or something like that.
There is incredible satisfaction in like a mission-driven career, and to be producing like beautiful produce to a community. But there's also, I think one of the things that has allowed me to really thrive in this environment is that it's so multifaceted. I can literally be pulling weeds with my hands or working a hoe, or I can be designing a new software to organize and help make decisions about planting and planting schedules and rotating crops so that we don't have to think through the same issue at the same time. Or I can be reading engineering manuals on specific pieces of equipment to understand. So it really, for someone like me, it's like, ooh, bird. Oh, this is cool. How do I can really get engaged as deeply as I want on pretty much anything that I'm interested in.
A lot of the young people in high school, their parents want them to, go into law or the medical industry, something like that. it's not considered, farming is not considered challenging enough or something like that. It's like the dumb kids go into farming, which actually in, you know, I don't know what it was like when you were in high school, but all the kalohe, the rascals, right? The troublemakers, they would go in, oh, you go into shop class, right? And so that's where agriculture is now. Yeah, you put like the kids that aren't really all there, they go in, the troublemakers, they all go into agriculture. But it's actually, we're faced with huge challenges in trying to grow more food with less inputs, protect the soil. You know, it takes a couple thousand years to generate an inch of soil. Big rainstorm here, if you're not looking out after the soil, that's gone down to the coral reefs. So we really need the smart people from high school to get involved and challenged by agriculture, not just, you know, it's mentally stimulating, challenging, and it's we're turning the pages in terms of trying to do more with less and integrate more of a holistic understanding of the natural world, soil microbiology, and work that in with all the technical advances that we're seeing these days. Food security, when you think about it, and sustainable agriculture, you know, as a farmer, and you think about sustainability, you could say, okay, I'm producing vegetables with the lowest impact possible. That's great. And, you know, I'm getting paid a fair wage for it. But, you know, realistically, as I get older, my ability to work as hard as I did when I was 30 is definitely less. So sustainability also has to look at the impact of the practices on the farmer. You know, we had some friends of ours used to buy my father-in-law's corn. He grew like the best corn on the planet. And they would say, oh, we love your father-in-law's corn. And we're like, yeah, but we don't care about the chemicals. I said, yeah, but my father-in-law is exposed to those chemicals every week because he sprays every week. So it just means we don't spray or use chemicals like that, but the long-term sustainability of the farmer decreases as they work harder. I mean, it's the human condition, you kind of break down. So it's really important to bring in younger farmers, get them trained to the degree we can, provide them with a kind of a crucible where they can bring in their own ideas, have a sense of ownership, and bring this forward. I mean, that's an element of sustainability, is replenishing the supply of farmers, not only replenishing the supply of ulu or kalo or whatever else you happen to be growing. The idea is sustainability is trying to do as much as you can without really borrowing from the future and taking care of ourselves now, with the idea that, you know, part of what you plant now, whether it's techniques, technology, or actual plants, will feed my kids and my kids' kids ad infinitum into the future. If you just look at it as feeding me and my family and my bank account right now, then you're getting perilously close to the idea of mining, which is not renewable. You just dig it up, take what you need, and move on to the next part. And so for sustainable agriculture, we need to really take much better care of the land and get it to the point that it's healthy for decades to come.
And I work with the Hawaii Farmers Union United. I'm here today to share a little bit about our farmer training program, the Farm Apprentice Mentorship Program. It's an island-wide program, and this is the first year that we have a cohort out here in Hana town. So Hana community members can get involved in the farmer training program. They don't need to commute into Kahului in order to participate. We have the classes offered through the University of Hawaii, and then we do on-farm activities right here in Hana area, but it is island-wide, so you can get involved in the farmer training program no matter where you live. We're hoping to expand the program to Molokai and Lanai this next year, so if you're on one of the outer islands, get ready to join in as well.
We're the Hana chapter of the Hawaii Farmers Union, and we have produce and herbs and plant starts and value-added jams and hot sauces that are all made by farmers from Kanai, Hana, Kipahulu, and Kaupo. And
Inoculated.
we have these beautiful inoculated shiitake logs for sale. Yes, that were graciously donated by our friends at Hana Tropicals, which is a farm in Hana, flower farm.
Wow.
Yes,
And that's their president there. Howdy.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm the president of the Hana chapter
Well, okay. And a durian farmer.
and a durian farmer in Lower Nahiku. So,
Really?
yeah. Mission is actually just to have a venue for any farmer to be able to have a voice, to be able to take to legislation, and just to support other farmers. You know, we're working on having a weekly farmers market out here, so where people, farmers could drop off their food, and then locals could have access to fresh vegetables, fruits, and everything. So,
Great idea.
yeah.
Yeah, baby. Hawaii Farmers Union United.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Shane Sinenci, Council Member Shane Sinenci from East Maui. We're here at the Maui County Council building up in Wailuku as the Agricultural Committee Chair. We realize as an office and as a district that the importance to keep agricultural lands and agricultural zoning. As everyone knows, we're at a pivotal point in Maui's history. There has been many events that have changed, some historic events that have changed the direction that we'll be moving in the next several years. One of them is the sale of the old sugar plantation lands. We remember the old plantation days, and that is quickly coming to an end. A lot of our grandparents and our parents grew up in the plantation era. We're looking at continuing that yet in a new light. Now that that is gone, we've seen a resurgence in ancient farming techniques and a return back to the ahupua'a system of farming. We realized that for over 125 years, there has been environmental desecration as far as taking waters out of our streams. We realize the importance of mauka to makai and having water flow from the kuahivis down through our streams, freshwater streams, down to our estuaries along the coastlines. And as council members, we're looking on how to mitigate and continue that natural cycle, that natural water cycle from the mountains down to the sea. In the last several years, we've seen a resurgence and a return to Malama Aina, the concept of, and Aloha Aina, the concept of intense care for the land. And we've also seen a resurgence in the ancient practice of kalo restoration and kalo practice. There is still a fight at the legislature to keep holdover permits for those long-term leases for water diversions. And many practitioners are looking to reestablish those rights to water as a public trust. Currently, there is a drive to look at our own food security here on Maui and the rest of the state. The state legislature has looked to the Central Plains of Maui to help to feed the rest of the island. Keeping these lands in agricultural zoning is very important for our sustainability and for our future generations. As the Maui legislative body, we're looking to support more agricultural programs in the schools, in our communities, and at the college level. So we'd like to fund those educational programs to promote careers in the farming industry, processing centers for export, and to continue the interest in our young children that farming is a priority in all facets of their daily life. So now is a great time to return to the host culture, a return to ancient practices, and a return to ancient stewardship of the Aina.
Welcome to Kahanu Aina Greens. My name is Vincent. Mina, my wife Irene and I, 25 years ago, started this family farm here on this postage stamp, an urban farm in Wailuku, where we produce approximately 500 pounds of greens in a plant-based compost a week and feed the community here on Maui and a little bit on Oahu. But everything we grow is sold. And we're fortunate that we have a following of people that value our products to the point to where if we're out at any time, they're not happy. Well, we grow microgreens, actually, politically correct name of it, because it's a crop that we grow in a plant-based compost, and one cut of that crop after 7 days after being soaked to harvest. It takes 7 days cycle. And we take that, after we cut that flat, we grow them in flats, seed flats basically. And after we cut that seed flat, we then take that seed flat and compost it to where we recycle it back into the system. And then some days down the road, amend that compost that is created and reuse it again. So we've created a closed loop system here. We live on a 9,000 square foot lot, and 2,500 square feet of it is our farm. I'm presently the president of Hawaii Farmers Union United. It's a seed I planted back in 2009 to get a chapter of the National Farmers Union here in Hawaii. And that seed was planted out of an organization, a nonprofit organization my wife Irene and I started back in 2001 called Maui Aloha Aina. As a matter of fact, that's the hat. That's the logo. Ma'a, to become accustomed to. And we wanted people to become accustomed to this relationship we have between our bodies and the soil. And so that was our work we did early on to raise the awareness in the community about our food supply and how that food can keep us well along the way. And so that was just a local nonprofit. And I was on the board of the Farm Bureau back in 2005 to 2008. I was an officer of that, looking to make a difference here locally. And the Farm Bureau, I got money from the county through the Farm Bureau to put on conferences and brought in experts who could speak to this relationship between our bodies and the soil. And we had 12 conferences in 13 years. And it was a wonderful thing. Had them on a farm. It was amazing. Just loved that experience. And from that experience, what I learned was that the state legislature listens to national farming organizations. Because when I was on the Farm Bureau board, we had experiences with the state legislature that they were looking to the Farm Bureau to answer some questions around GMO, around agribusiness, around organic, around conventional, just they didn't quite understand because there was no farmers in the legislature. So I wanted us to focus in on more soil health aspects, and the Farm Bureau had other priorities at the time. And so when I got Hawaii Farmers Union going, it was based on wanting to support the farmers who value regenerating the life of the land. Our mission is basically to create and advocate for prosperous and vibrant agricultural communities here in Hawaii and Maui. Yeah, so this is a 7-day crop. Our greens are pretty much 7 days, and you can see the difference between one day to the next of growth. Here you go. There's 3 days right there. This is one day, the next day, then the next day. And this is ready to harvest. This is pretty much, you see the root mass just totally engulfed the compost that we had on this tray. Our sunflower greens, this will grow another inch before tomorrow morning. And then this sunflower here is will be ready on Monday. So all this behind me is basically all next week. You know, these are so young that if they dry out, then they won't develop as evenly as you see all these are developing. So that's the key, is to get this kind of even growth, you know, throughout. And if you stand at the end of the table, like I'll sit down, I'll go at the end of the table and I'll look down and just meditate on it, you can actually see them growing. So this is the part of our pile that we're building now from all the cut flats of greens, all the biomass. This is a static pile. All we do is stack the trays on top of it, and it ends up looking like this. And what happens is it crusts, that dries out from the top, from the sun and everything, but right down below the surface, it gets real humic rich. Smells sweet, and becomes this wonderful medium of being able to grow our trays in. Let me show you over here. This is even older. So I poke holes in here for air. That's why these holes, yeah. And so there's black gold, and you can see all the, yeah, that's sweet. You can see all of the holes from all the sunflower and everything that's breaking down over time. You know, 25 years, that means there's this microbial community in here. Now, you know what's really neat about humus? See, this is a lot of humic development here. And humus is when microorganisms break down organic matter to its finest place. You know, to where they've broken down all the nutrient that's in there to a point to where it's a humic structure that is very resilient. It doesn't break down very easily, yeah? And so when you have this humic structure, it holds together. When moisture goes through it, it doesn't lose its form. You know, when it gets saturated with water, it won't lose its form. And it actually will just hold so much water and then release. You know, it doesn't turn to slop, yeah? And it's really neat too, because if you're a root and you're growing through it, look how friable, look how easy it is to grow through it, you know? And yet at the same time, when I compress it, it holds its form, but then look, just very nicely breaks apart. So it really gives way to the saying of, you know, how important humus is, that we all need to have more of a sense of humus. So that's why I say to people, you know, who want to farm, is to make sure you set yourself up to grow your soil first before you grow any plants. One of the biggest mistakes I feel that people that get on land is that they put plants, they plant their plants without growing the soil first. And that's a big mistake, because then you're running into problems right off. As the plants grow up, you want to make sure the foundation is there as they continue to grow, that they'll have that strong foundation to where they can stay healthy. And if you don't grow your soil first, you're not really giving them the foundation they need to stay healthy. We screen this through our compost screener. This has been, basically breaking down for the past 3 months, I would say. Is the last time we got into this part of the pile. And so in growing our greens in this material, the feedback I get from people is how long the greens last and how flavorful they are. So then I feel like I'm doing my job, because I'll get feedback from people, hey, those greens you gave me, I started eating them, and then, I didn't eat the whole bag, and I put it in the refrigerator and got pushed in the back, and then when I went to clean out my refrigerator, there they were, and you know what? Weeks later, they're still crispy, and their ends weren't browned. And so, when the ends brown, it's because they're oxidized, yeah. And but it basically inhibits oxidation from occurring when you grow it in a vital compost as this. It's so cool, that's where our reputation, precedes us out in the community, because people know. I mean, one health food store gets over 120 pounds of sunflower greens a week. 120 pounds of sunflower. It just blows me away that this one store gets that much pounds, consumed in the community from that one store. So really fortunate that our community loves and appreciates what we do, because we love doing it. And, it's a way of being, it's a way of living.